it's mandatory. It's a requirement. You ought to have that. That is something you ought to have. For you to be a developer, you ought to have that. You ought to have that, because you see, you are CSS and HTML. They are everything. Let me say that. Welcome to Coding Life as podcast. Of course, with the mics, where we discuss topics related to tech, be it tech news, new technologies, and the ways of doing things in tech. So in our previous episode, we covered the top skills in tech that really pay developer bills. So if you did not watch that episode, it's episode 15. Just go to our YouTube channel, or visit our Spotify at Coding Life, and just peruse through, just go through the episodes that we have uploaded at the moment, and you'll learn one or two things. If you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, this is the time to do it. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the notification bell. And also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank. We have two of our loyal fans. These are guys who are watching every episode we release, which is very encouraging.
They are so keen.
They're commenting. They're actually giving feedback on what we need to do to improve. Maybe there's a topic we didn't exhaust on a specific episode. We get to improve each and every day. And I think it's for Eric. Because the guy comments and guides us mostly in our content, and and Ben Kivuva, of course.
Big shout to Ben Kivuva.
That guy. He's in our both platforms, YouTube and Spotify. He has really been supporting our content, and I think we are making impact out there, which is so encouraging. So thank you guys for everything, and for sticking with us as we share this content, and I hope we keep impacting new people, because we need to build a community for all of us where we can discuss openly about these tech topics, where you can just be free
and grow the community,
and then we can maybe do some things together as a community. That's the end goal. So today's topic is an interesting one, and it's I know everyone, if you've ever touched tech, if you've ever been into tech, if you've ever even thought about tech,
you have gone through it.
So we're going to discuss, there's a perception that most people, mostly those guys who are joining tech, they think and they have a perception that HTML and CSS is not really a language, or it's not really enough. HTML and it's not really enough when you're to some extent. It might not be enough, which is true, but whatever you can do with those two, let me tell you, you can do wonders. And they're actually the building blocks of software engineering, because now without CSS, obviously you know what kind of sites we would have and how they would look like. So we'll try and dig deep into that, and based on our experiences, and try to expound on what HTML and CSS means, and what it means to you as a software engineer, or what it means to you who is that person who is trying to join tech space, what it will mean, and what exactly what exactly is the impact that HTML and CSS do. So welcome, and let's do this. So Mike, it's our 16th episode. 16th episode, and I'm glad that we on our 16th episode we are speaking about this specific topic. which is actually the building blocks of programming. So, what is your perception as a software engineer? What is your perception, and what was your perception at first when you ventured into tech, and before you even got introduced to these frameworks and these languages that we use? What was your perception earlier on HTML and CSS, and what did it feel like coding using basic HTML and basic CSS?
Yeah. I remember when I met with HTML, when I started up doing HTML,
yeah,
I was psyched up because I knew I was starting a journey.
Yeah.
Even though at that time I was hearing about the big frameworks at that time, that is React, Laravel.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like the HTML and CSS are not given the enough time or enough concentration. Because for me, I took it very heavy.
Yeah.
Because I remember I took an A4. Although back in school, we did it, HTML and CSS.
Yeah.
But I took it to my own after doing away the campus.
Yeah.
And then I remember I logged into this site, an application, the phone application. It's called Solar.
Yeah.
And started doing HTML again because I was told.
Yeah.
Now, this time, before I was told, there's a girl who told me, if you need to start
your journey in tech,
you need to know HTML. At that time, I did not know. I knew the lights. At that time I knew the HTML3, and now it has been introduced HTML5.
Yeah. HTML5. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went back and started once again with that A4 of mine. I did the HTML.
Yeah.
Did a lot of digging, CSS.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was happy when I created one of my first websites called Computer Agency.
Yeah.
Back then, because I came from hardware, I had created a YouTube channel.
You? Okay. We'll speak about that.
I used to fix stuff. So I started my company. It was called Mickey Tech Solution.
You even had a company when you started?
Yeah.
A hardware company?
I was so serious. I created Make It Tech Solution.
Yeah, I think at some point we'll need to hear that story. At some point, we'll dig into that.
Okay. So I created a computing agency.
Yeah.
That would refer to Make It Tech Solution.
Yeah.
So with basic HTML and CSS, and I was so happy.
How did it feel? How was the outlook and how was the reception from
being the first website? How the colors. I remember that I came across, these patterns, wave-like patterns.
Yeah.
I used them. I used those patterns and created. Okay, it was not that beautiful.
It was a rainbow. Like
yeah, it had just a button to take you to my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And a simple description.
I also feel HTML and CSS is not given enough credit. Because you see, have you ever seen the way Craigslist looks like? Have you ever just gone through Craigslist and just see how it looks like? Craigslist. It's like a search engine. It's just like a search browser. It's something just like a search engine basically, where you can just search for
like Google.
If you want, not really, it's per se, but to some extent, yeah. But it's why if you want to like get stuff, you want to like get, you see these writers. If you want to get a writer, you can get there. If you want to get a job, you can get, it has like, it's like a referral site for mostly for services and all. You can get so much from it. It doesn't have any, not really, it doesn't have like CSS. It's just basic links. And it has so many users per se. It has so many users.
Like the old Yahoo.
Yeah, similar to that, yeah. It has so many users, but it doesn't have that outlook like the way you see Google Chrome. You see that search, meaning it's beautiful and it has all these colors, beautiful arranged and all. So I feel like it doesn't mean that CSS based on that specific criteria, it doesn't mean that CSS is not basic and it's not enough. But other sites that use CSS is supposed to make your site appealing and attract the eye. Yeah, so I feel like CSS mostly, yes, HTML also, but let me first explore. You see CSS, yes, you'll build a site that has this nice functionality and all, but the site looks not so good, and you will end up not having the kind of traffic you expect. But if you configure CSS the way it's supposed to, and you're able to, if you have that eye, because CSS is just it's the colors and mostly alignments, behaviors. You see, it's specific behaviors, not so much, because you see in basic programming where you learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML is the structure part. It gives your site the structure. It's just like a building. When you build a building, you just use stones and all. It's just a structure. You see, a basic structure. You get, and with just this basic structure, you can't get tenants and all. So what do? You have to do the interior decor, which now which relates now to programming. CSS is the interior decorations. For even when the customer comes in and they're like, whoa, they're like, now this house looks nice. You see, so that's for your site. HTML will give you the structure part. You'll be able to add divs. You see, you're able to align your content and all that. But now when you introduce CSS, you'll be able to add colors. That you see, colors for people who do UX and UI and UX, they can tell you that colors there's an explanation behind
every color.
Yes, every color has an explanation. So when you're using colors, you don't just, you see, for us when we were starting, for me, I think on the first episode I gave a snippet of the first site I built, which was, I think it was Anita's Kitchen. I built it. It's on GitHub. It's a repo I have on GitHub. It's called Anita's Kitchen. At the time I was learning. It was like my first website at first. So we were just building using HTML and basic HTML and CSS at that time, because we had not even learned JavaScript yet. But let me tell you, I was so proud of the site that I did, even though it had some issues, because some of the sliders were not sliding. But at least I built something that was colorful a bit. It was nice. At least I built my first site, which I just built with CSS and HTML, which gave me the confidence. You see, when you're learning programming, it's a requirement. It's mandatory. You have to be familiar with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I don't think there's any framework you can pick up that doesn't have that requirement. You see, those are the items that fall across the board. You get, you see, these frameworks that we have the likes of Angular, the likes of React. You see, all of them are from JavaScript. They're JavaScript frameworks. Us just saying that is AngularJS and React.js. You see, so they've been derived from JavaScript. So I think it's mandatory for you to learn Vanilla.js, HTML, and CSS, because I also think they're not given enough credit.
And I think it's good that we are stressing out that basic really matters, because there's no way you can build a house without the foundation.
Yeah, the basics are everything. The way you start learning, you see, if you start well, you do, because you see, there's a learning curve in software engineering. Like for us, the way we were being taught, where I used to go to school, they normally start you easy. They start with HTML first. You see, because HTML it's a bit easy to learn. Yeah, you see. Then they transition to CSS. You see, they come unwrapping little by little. Then after you are conversant with the two, they bring in the behavioral part of coding, which is JS. JS is just behavior. What happens after this?
Yeah.
What happens after
If
this?
you want to interact with the door.
What happens when someone opens a door? Does it fall down? Does it slide? You see, does it just it doesn't open? You see that part of it. That's why you see. Let me just summarize a bit. You see, I've said in programming, the basics, they are really important, and it's something you need to take serious. And in learning the basics, of course, at the heart of it is CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. And as I've said, HTML is the structural part of it.
Skeleton.
That's the skeleton part of your anime. Then we have CSS, which is the interior, which is the decoration, which is the colors, which is how you say the appearance part of it. So we have structure, appearance, and then on JavaScript, that's the behavior. We have the behavior. What happens after something happens? You see, what happens? You see, yes, you'll put a structure there, but what does someone? You see, you'll add a button there, which is using HTML code. But what happens when that person clicks? Do they click and see? Or do they click and see hello world? Do they click and navigate to a different page? You see, so for someone who is out there and they want to venture in programming, I would urge you,
take time.
I would urge you, if you want to have a smooth transition into tech, and for you to have a good feeling, and for you to feel like you're growing. You see, most people are just when you venture into programming, you just want to go direct into Angular. Boom, you're in Angular, but you don't even know the basics. You see, you see something that makes someone grow and that gives someone the urge to learn more is the fact that whatever I did yesterday and whatever I've done today, there's a big difference, and there's an improvement that is visible. You see, if you learn today HTML, you see, you build a small site with HTML. You see, maybe an article site or something with HTML. Then tomorrow, you learn CSS. You give a bit of color to that CSS, to that site of yours. Let me tell you, the joy that you'll feel from that transition, you will be like, hey, damn, yesterday I learned something. I was able to do this, and today now I'm able to do this. It feels so good. Then after you transition from CSS, you transition to JS. Now you are like, whoa. You see, that specific growth, that is the growth you'll pick up when you go now, when you want to learn now the likes of these frameworks that we have, the likes of Angular, these other languages like Python, you see, Java.
And I also feel like if you want to know the basics, as you are saying, you just start by building for you to notice the difference.
Yeah, you see, programming is, yes, it's theoretical and all. You have to understand the theory part of it. But you see, the way you learn, yes, you've gone through books and you've learned that this is what's supposed to happen after this. You have the structure laid out on your books and on the exams you get. But now, when it comes down to the implementation part, that's where the actual learning starts. Because you see, you do not learn. I think I told you on a specific episode. You do not learn until a challenge is presented to you for you to solve. And the reason why we do programming is for us to solve problems. We identify there's a problem that we need to solve.
So we are problem solvers in nature.
So, yeah, for us, by nature, for us engineers, we are built like that. You have to identify a problem. If you're building an ERP solution for a specific organization, you have to identify what is missing. What is that missing link? You get. So that transition, that means it's very important for you to transition from books to now the actualization of what you've learned. You get. So, and the way you transition is you start by doing it. Yeah, it doesn't matter how easy it is. It doesn't matter. You see, we might sit here and say HTML is easy, but to someone who doesn't know what it is, someone who's new, it's not easy. You get, it's not that easy. It's not easy. You see, so for our viewers out there, when you're venturing to tech, make sure you're keen enough when you're learning CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, because those ones are the building blocks of whatever engineer out there does. So make sure you're keen and take baby steps. And I think with CSS and CSS and HTML, you can build nice things.
And there's no way you can be a great programmer without the basics.
Yeah,
it's hard to solve, but
it's actually
very critical, because how can you solve a very big a complex bug without the proper knowledge of how it became a bug?
I would actually say, you see, for them, it's not even a bit of it's mandatory. It's a requirement. You ought to have that. That is something you ought to have for you to be a developer. You ought to have that. You ought to have that, because you see, you are CSS and HTML. They are everything. Let me say that.
And also, I would propose for a person who is starting up for them to take time. Time as you learn this. As I have told you, I took my time. I read my books. I did writing and learned. And also after learning, I started creating, and that's how, by the way, my lack of visual design came from after doing CSS. Because after that, I think that is what has stood up for me, because I have gained this visual design, and how can I say it? When I put in a room of developers, I can be separated. You can notice me with my designs, because I took time with my basics.
HTML and CSS, that's design. That's basically it. Yes, you have to. And for you to be a good engineer, you have to dig deep into it. So guys, if thank you again for sticking around as we discussed that specific mandatory requirement. So if there's something we've missed out, kindly add into the comment section, and next time we'll add more, and we'll shout out to the comments that we get, and we'll expand more on it. So thank you for sticking around, and if you've not subscribed yet, I think we're in episode 16, man, kindly subscribe and follow our subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow our Spotify account. For those who have followed, thank you for everything, and we'll keep bringing this content to you. And we really appreciate.
Also to mention, for those guys who are saying I don't have the Spotify, I cannot access my YouTube channel. The YouTube we are on Google Podcasts.
On Google Podcasts at Coding Life still. So see you on the next episode as we unwrap things to do with tech. So cheers. See you in the next episode.
Coding Life
with the mics.